Good morning from Julia Carroll, my 2026 weight loss journey. Today is Monday, March 16th, and I don't know how many days is that from January 1st. Math is not my favorite subject. I have no clue. I don't even know. Can't even hazard a guess right now. One day since my dad passed, but I'm actually doing pretty well. And I kind of attribute that to, well, let me just back up and just say, I am not using my father's death as I'm going to eat everything in sight, which I've done in the past. I know that when my mother passed away 24 years ago, unfortunately, my father and I, in our grief and despair, and I lived with my father at the time, we kind of went crazy with food. That's what we were. We were gluttons and compulsive binge eaters. And with the death of my mom, my dad and I just, we kind of went off the rails a little bit. And we both gained quite a bit of weight because of it. And I know for a fact, I do not want to do that again. And psychologically, my desire is to turn to food right now. I do want to eat the biggest thing of chocolate ice cream and chocolate cake and chocolate. I mean, all I want is snickerdoodles and M&Ms and Ben & Jerry's cookie dough ice cream and chocolate cake and brownies and everything, popcorn. I kind of want to go to town. But, I've lost 31 pounds. I don't want to wreck that with my father's passing. I don't want my dad's passing to be what derails me or sends me into a downward spiral, because that's not healthy for me. And worse than that, if my father knew his dying derailed me as a person, he would be disgusted. He wouldn't be disgusted with me. He would be upset, not disgusted. He would be upset. He would be so grieved that his passing hurt me so much that I would derail myself. He would not like that. That would not be what he would want for me. And in fact, the last time I saw him, which was a week ago, I didn't get a chance to see him yesterday or the previous week. I didn't get to the rest home. So the last time I saw him was the week before he died, literally a week before he died. And he wasn't responsive. He was in his bed, just sort of sleeping, doing weird stuff, not responsive. And my brother was there, and we both said goodbye to him. And I prayed over him, and my brother left, and I stayed with him. And I think I shared in another video that I gave him permission to leave. He could go home. Russ and I would be fine. My brother and I would be fine. So for me, wanting to stay on track with food and exercise is kind of like me wanting to honor the last bit of what I can do to honor my mother and my father, especially my dad. Because as much as I loved my mother, she has been gone 24 years, and that wound is so healed that it's not there anymore, almost. It's very much just this thin little scar that doesn't really pain me at all. I want to honor my dad, and by extension, my mom, and not let his passing be a reason I don't succeed at the weight loss that I genuinely want, that I need, that's appropriate, healthy, that honors my parents, and it honors God. So, thinking about that has helped me restrain myself from compulsive binge eating. And, while I want to do it, I don't. I was commenting to my brother today when we were texting this morning, just sort of checking in with each other to make sure we're doing okay. And I think we're both a little bit in shock still, but I also think this death is significantly different than my mom's passing. While my mom had been sick, she had multiple sclerosis for years before she died and really deteriorated. It was still much more of a shock than my father's passing. My dad had been having serious problems for quite a while. In fact, he started having serious health problems, physical problems, beginning in 2016. And he was still with it mentally in 2016 up until probably 2022-ish. He was okay, but he was having serious problems, lots of hospitalizations, and that can wear on you. It's only been in the last year or two that he really, maybe 3, that he really has declined to such a degree that having conversations with him was very difficult because emotionally he wasn't really our dad anymore, especially the last year. I was looking back at old photographs I'd taken of my dad in the last year and a half, 2 years, because it would be typically my brother and I would go visit him, not usually on the same day. And we usually would bring a treat. Sometimes we bring McDonald's, a milkshake, coffee, donut, that kind of thing. And one of us would always take a photograph of a meeting and send it to the other one with like, I'm here visiting Pop. I brought him a sausage McMuffin and hash browns from McDonald's, and he'd eat it just fine. He had no problem with that. So I have all these old photographs, always of my dad almost eating. Kind of strange. Sitting in his chair when he was at the board and care, and he had this big, nice reclining chair. It was one of those lift chairs that help him get out, stand up, and he could walk with a walker at the time. It was only when he went into the rest home in July of 2025 that he kind of started losing the ability to walk. And honestly, he went into the rest home July 2025 and he was dead by March 2026. So he didn't spend long there, which probably is very much as a blessing because it was a depressing place. And it's actually a good place. So how depressing must it be if it's good? But it was, I don't want to be there. I just as soon die much sooner than that. But, you know, he was a good dad, and I find myself missing him the way he was, but what he became and how he reacted to me and my brother in the last 6-8 months was so far removed from our dad that the grief for him passing away right now just is not quite as strong. It's more like I miss who he used to be. And the hardest thing was for me when I noticed, even in his demented state with advancing Alzheimer's dementia, my brother and I would visit and he would still have this engaged excitement in his eyes for us. And he would still be like excited to see us. But I noticed the last few times I visited him, pretty much after the first of the year, that emotional connection in his eyes and seeing us wasn't there. It's like he didn't really care. And so I noticed that, and I remember being hurt by that. And not that he was hurting me, it's just his condition was deteriorating to such a degree that the emotional impact that he had on us and we had on him was really faltering. So it was painful. So when it happened, it's sort of a little bit of a relief, honestly. I do pray that he had salvation in Jesus. He claimed to believe in Jesus, so I have to go with what his words say. So I'm praying that he had faith and trust in Jesus and is in heaven. He's walking streets of gold. He's seeing what no eye has seen, hearing what no ear has heard. And he's with Jesus Christ, glorifying in our Lord, glorifying in what Jesus did for him on the cross, and even what Jesus did for him in the life he gave my dad and the life he helped my father make for himself. And it was a great life. You know, I like any person, I'm prone to sin, prone to look at my life and go, woe is me. But honestly, with some clear thinking and a little gratitude in the heart, I have had a very blessed life. And one of the areas I noticed, I watched a video my brother did today, the dog walking author. You should see his channel. Read his books too, they're good. He mentioned that he had received an outpouring of support for people that were comforting him in the loss of his dad. And it occurred to me that I have reached out to a number of friends and family yesterday when my dad died. And you know, there wasn't one person that wasn't like, oh, Julia, I'm so sorry. If you need me, call me. And in fact, because my dad passed away at 4 a.m., aside from my brother, who are you calling at 4 a.m.? Really nobody. But there was this one friend. Now, I had a cousin in New York, so she's 3 hours ahead, so I did text her. And I also texted a friend in Texas who was a couple hours ahead. So by the time I was downstairs and after I'd called the funeral home, I'm texting my friend with, are you awake? And she's like, yes. I'm like, can I call you? She's like, yes. So I called her and broke the news that, you know, my dad had passed away. So it was helpful that I had the ability to reach out to a cousin and text them, and then my friend in Texas who I could call. And then there was another friend. She's an early riser. I've never really called her super early. She and I are doing a Revelation Bible study, and we're doing it 7 a.m. on Saturday mornings. So our first time we had done it was 7 a.m. Saturday morning. So here it is about 7 a.m. Sunday morning. And I'm looking at the walls going, it's still too early to call everybody. I wanted to, but it was a little too early. And I already spoken to my brother, so it's like, so I'm like, okay, I'll just call her. Because she's up. I know she's up. And I'm staring at the walls, and I was agitated, very agitated yesterday morning. So I'm like, I need to talk to somebody. So I had called a couple people, and because it was, 6 and 7 o'clock in the morning on Sunday morning, most people were still sleeping. So I was very thankful that my friend Lori took the call and was very helpful. So there hasn't been one person that hasn't been lovely, kind, generous to me in this loss. And I'm very grateful for that. Very appreciative. And it's one of those things that I think sometimes we discount friendship, and how that is one of the nicest things to have on this planet, are genuine friends. And they can come few and far between. And it does occur to me, if we do this Christian life right, we should have friends. We should have people that will bear our burdens with us. And this is one of the burdens you help bear, is the death of a loved one. There are times that we're called to carry our little knapsacks where we have things that we all need to carry, responsibilities for ourselves and our family that we can't shirk and give to other people. But then there are things, and death of a loved one is one of those things that you really can't carry alone. You have to rely on friends, other family, Jesus Christ to help carry, because he's not immune to the loss of friends. He wept when Lazarus died, and he wept knowing he was going to raise him from the dead. So what does that say? weeping over the death of somebody, even if they're going to be raised from the dead, is still a good thing. And being with somebody when they've passed is being a friend to somebody whose loved one has passed is a beautiful thing. So I'm thankful for the friends that helped me and will, as the days, weeks, and months continue, will. I gotta go. Bye-bye.